Carousel of Life, Day 6, Secrets. A Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction written for Adrinette April 2019, following the prompt hosted on Tumblr. Check out the description box for more information. If you're new to this series, it's a continuous story that progresses from Chapter 1. You can find links to the previous chapters in the description below, or click on the card in the upper right corner for the playlist. And with that, let's take a ride on the Carousel of Life. Marinette felt the boat sway as she stepped onto it. It was a Friday evening, late dusk, and the sky was a dark purple. The stage platform was set up, but not the truss. This wasn't an official gig, just a jam session among friends. RGB mood lights were set up around the perimeter of the stage, transitioning smoothly from one hue to the next. "Hey girl, you made it!" Alia was at Marinette's side immediately, hooking an arm around hers and leading her to where Alex and Milan were sitting on cardboard boxes, sipping fruity drinks and watching the band play. The first thing Marinette had noticed was the sound of the piano, and her eyes were drawn to the stage. As expected, Adrien was there, nodding slightly with the beat as he played chords and arpeggios across the keys. He looked completely at peace and in his element. Marinette knew how rare it was for Adrien to be allowed to hang out with his friends, and his appreciation showed. When the song ended, Adrien stood and left the stage even as the rest of the band transitioned into the next number. To Marinette's complete shock, he came straight toward her as if he'd been planning it. She looked behind her to see if there was someone else he was smiling at, but there was no one there. "Hey Marinette, how was the song?" he asked with a broad smile. Alia elbowed her in the side and she realized she was staring.
Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome.
Was that a pun? Adrien quirked an eyebrow, a faint smile gracing his lips. No, it was a slip of the tongue, but Marinette laughed along with him anyway, letting him think she was being clever. "Mind if I sit here?" Adrien pointed at the empty spot to Marinette's left.
Sure, I don't mind at all."
He sat down and leaned back on his arms in a comfortable pose. Marinette fiddled nervously with the strap of her purse, eyes fixed on the band. She didn't know what to make of the fact that he'd deliberately come to sit next to her. Anytime he had ended up sitting beside her before, it was usually a matter of circumstance or accident. Was he expecting something? Should she try talking to him? Or should she stay silent so they could watch the band? Unexpectedly, it was he who made the first move. Marinette looked at Adrien. He was facing the stage, but his eyes darted down to look at her, then back at the stage with uncharacteristic apprehension. "Remember that time you tried out for fencing? I noticed you were really fast."
"Oh, yeah. Thanks?"
What did you say to something like that? That had been almost a year ago. Marinette wondered why he was bringing it up now. "Yeah, and you seemed really coordinated. I'm sure if Kagami hadn't showed up, you would have been able to make the team." Right. Kagami. Marinette's gut sank at the mention of her name. She had noticed they'd been spending a lot of time together lately. Maybe Adrien had come to ask her for advice about Kagami again. Her emotional defense system went up, and she braced herself for whatever might come out of Adrien's mouth next. It couldn't hurt as much as the time he had admitted that he was starting to see Kagami as more than a friend. At least this time she was ready. "What I'm trying to say is," Adrien continued, and she tuned into his words through the tempest that had started in her heart. "It's almost like you had practiced fighting before. I guess not fencing since you didn't know the rules. But did you? Or do you?" Adrien gave her a penetrating look, and Marinette blinked back, confused. His words had come out of left field.
No, not really."
Aside from the Akuma battles she fought a few times a week, but she wasn't about to mention that.
"Why do you ask?"
"No reason," he said, letting out a breath he had seemed to be holding. "Sorry if I made you uncomfortable. I just made some observations, I guess. And I got curious, like a curious cat." He coughed awkwardly. "Observations? Don't tell me you were checking my girl out, Agrest." Alia leaned over Marinette to give Adrien a sharp look, and Marinette could almost feel the air crackling with tension between them. "No, nothing like that," Adrien countered, lowering his eyebrows. Of course, his denial was to be expected, regardless of what he really thought of her. Yet he was acting different from usual, and Marinette couldn't understand his line of questioning. She was too confused by Adrien's behavior to even know how to feel. And what was with that look Alia gave him? Marinette remembered that she had walked in on a conversation Adrien was having with Nino and Alia the other day, and her heart felt even heavier as she remembered the words she had heard. "I don't choose who I love." Did it have to be a certain dark-haired, red-suited girl? Kagami's fencing outfit was red, and she knew they had lessons together several times a week. Marinette had even seen Adrien blush when he was with Kagami and her mother during the animated movie premiere. They'd been too far away for her to make out the conversation. Was Kagami the one Alia was talking about? The one Adrien loved? Was that why Alia gave him a warning look? Because she knew how much Marinette would read into Adrien's friendly advances and didn't want her to get her hopes up? Marinette. Adrien was speaking now in a voice low enough that Alia couldn't hear over the sound of the music. Marinette leaned in to hear better. "When you meet the right partner, you just know, right?" He caught her eye as he said it, and Marinette's heart squeezed painfully. She could hardly be called his partner in any sense. Was he talking about Kagami? Their face-off had been spectacular. Was he trying to ask her if Kagami was the right girl for him romantically too? She was afraid to ask him to clarify. Her heart couldn't handle the blow. She was sure he'd see the hurt in her eyes, but she forced a smile anyway. "I guess so," she answered noncommittally, her own voice sounding like it was miles away. As he pulled the final chord of the current song, Luca beckoned Adrien with a nod, a silent invitation to join in for the next one. Adrien returned the gesture, and his eyes lingered on Marinette's before he stepped back on stage and took his position at the piano. Marinette's insides were burning. She couldn't keep up her fake smile, and didn't want to make a scene in front of everyone. "I'm going to the bathroom," she told Alia, and took the flight of stairs into the house portion of the boat. Closing the bathroom door behind her, she sat on the toilet cover and let the tears pour down her cheeks. Tiki came out of her purse and nuzzled her cheek consolingly. Why did Adrien have to bring up Kagami? And all that other stuff about being fast and coordinated. Was physical fitness that important to him? Marinette couldn't compare with Kagami, who had trained for her whole life. Even if she joined a fencing class today, she would never be able to catch up. Was she foolish to hope that Adrien could ever like her? He had made it abundantly clear that he only saw her as a friend. There was a soft knock on the door, and Tiki darted back into hiding. Marinette stilled her breath and ripped off a piece of toilet paper to wipe the tears and runny mascara from her eyes. "Marinette?" Alia called out to her gently. "You okay?" "I'll be fine," Marinette mumbled, sniffling. "Can I come in?" Marinette unlocked the door, and Alia came inside, wrapping Marinette in a hug. "Alia, tell me the truth," Marinette said in a quiet, shaky voice. "You found out who Adrien likes, right?" Alia said nothing, which was enough of an answer. "It's someone else," Marinette said. A statement, not a question. "If you want my honest opinion," Alia said, "I don't think it'll work out, so you still have a chance. I just don't want you to get hurt." Marinette failed to see how it couldn't work out between Kagami and Adrien. They were like two peas in a pod, and even their parents got along. But since she needed a strain of optimism to latch onto, she nodded and took comfort in her best friend's arms. There was no reason for her to be upset anyway. Adrien had always been out of her reach. "Ready to go up, or do you need a moment?" "We can go up, just let me fix my makeup." Alia gave Marinette a moment in front of the mirror to clean her face of any dark smudges, then they went back out to the deck. Marinette was grateful for the low lighting. She couldn't muster up any enthusiasm for the rest of the night, but she stayed and did her best not to bring down the mood. A few times she caught Adrien looking at her, but she avoided him, not because she didn't want to be around him, but for his sake. He didn't deserve the brunt of her bitterness. As everyone was unwinding and some of the non-musical friends in their group were goofing off with the instruments on stage, Luca brought his guitar to sit beside Marinette. She wished he would leave her alone, but when he played a melancholy progression of minor chords, she didn't have the heart to tell him to go away. "Feeling like this again?" he asked gently, the first words he'd spoken to her that night. "I'm sorry," Marinette said, feeling like she was apologizing for her entire gloomy existence. There was no use putting on a show in front of Luca. He had an uncanny way of always sensing how she felt, regardless of how she acted.
Don't be, Luca answered. You're allowed to be sad, but I'd like to change the melody of your heart, if you'll let me.
Marinette didn't answer, so he just started to pluck out a soft melody. Surprisingly, despite her stubbornness and wanting to just wallow in her own pain, it worked. By the time everyone started saying their goodbyes, she felt okay. Not good, but okay. Pulling her light jacket tight, Marinette began the walk home. The night air was crisp and the wind had picked up.
Hey!
Marinette lifted her head to see Adrien jogging to catch up with her.
Hey!
He matched her pace.
I'm sorry if I said something wrong,
he said earnestly.
You seemed upset tonight.
He'd noticed?
No, it's okay,
Marinette said weakly.
I don't know if you'll understand, but...
He stopped her by grabbing her hand. Marinette finally looked at him, surprised. His eyes were soft and searching.
I hate secrets.
Several seconds passed and neither of them moved. Finally, she gently pulled her hand away from him.
Sorry, Adrien, I don't understand.
She felt like she had failed him. What did he want her to understand? What secrets did he mean? He stood in the sidewalk, staring at her for a moment longer before his expression changed into one she'd seen in magazines. A practiced look. The vulnerability was gone.
Sorry if I confused you,
he said, sounding a little distant.
I have to go. Good night.
For the first time, Marinette noticed the silver car that had been following them. Adrien waved and pulled open the door.
Do you need a ride?
He asked, seemingly as an afterthought.
No, thanks.
Before she knew it, the door had slammed shut and the car was disappearing down the street with a low hum. And like a scab ripped off along with the band-aid, all Luca's hard work was erased, just like that. Marinette cried for the second time that night, feeling so far away from the boy who unknowingly held her heart. Thank you for listening to Chapter 6 of Carousel of Life. If you liked it, leave a like or let me know what you thought in the comments. More is coming soon, so don't forget to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. Until next time!